Okay, let's just click on and put that there. Oh, cracky. Good morning, iCubian Organis. Here at you once again. I'm not quite sure what my problem actually is, but I'm having a problem with videoing, recording, either, I've done a whole hour's recording on a given topic, like last week was Armistice Day, and why I wouldn't wear the poppy, and why the rebel flag, if you want to call them rebel, why the Confederate battle flag is up. Quite extensive. I explained everything. But the microphone's battery was dead. So you got me animated, talking, pointing, and not a word is being heard. That's about the third or fourth time something's gone wrong. So it's either the creator saying he doesn't want me to do this, or he wants me to be more focused. And as you can see, I'm a bit peed off. So it's the week after the week that was. And so I'm going to go over the boring. I'm going to go over the same thing, pretty much. Armistice Day in England, every 11th of November, there's this hypocritical, oh, the war dead, and this year was the centenary, as it's 2018. It was 1918 when war ended, the First World War, the Great War, ended. And there are claims that it was the war to end all wars and all this nonsense. I recently listened to a lecture, a debate, about should Britain have been in the war in the first place, and clearly not, right? And I recall being in school, and they tell you the reasons why the war started. Archduke Ferdinand was shot, I think, in Sarajevo, and that started the war, whatever the case may be. If it happened over there, why here we go to fight over there in some European or world conflagration? And people from India fought, people from the Caribbean fought, although for year on year, when they have this big ceremonial parade about how sorry they are and how bad it was, that generation that died, and they wouldn't allow black people to show that they participated in World War I, let alone World War II. So we've been airbrushed out of it. But this is my country, and there is no perfect country. And so I don't wear the poppy. And I don't wear the poppy because until you can bring Tony Blair to The Hague for war crimes, David Cameron for the destruction of Libya, Clinton, Barack Obama, all of these war hawks who fight these wars for the bankers, which has been going back since 1815, don't ask me to wear no poppy and run around with this thing and feeling somber. I'm not feeling somber at all. Soldiers, yes, I understand. They take orders. But we're living in a technological age where the truth comes out, and no soldier, put down your arms. You're not going to serve this shower. Okay? So anyway, so why have I got the Confederate battle flag up there? Well, I'm in battle mode. We're living in a time where biblically scriptured that the truth will be an offense, and to speak the truth in a world of lies, watch out. So I am a rebel against the orthodoxy and the authoritarians, whoever they are. A little bit about me, I always voted Labour, that's socialist, if you will. And then one day I was, really going into the Bible and, did he exist and Jesus exists, etc. And I came up being a Bible-believing Christian. Not Christian, Bible believer. Decided I wasn't a Christian because I look around and see what Christianity is about. But I am a young earth creationist, believe it or not. And so I began to understand a little more, and I realized Jesus wouldn't be a socialist. And you've only got to use your head to understand it. So what am I talking about? I began to open my mind and question sacred cows, if you will. Question that which I was following and so forth, just like socialism. Then I began to examine it. And for a long time, it's gnawing away at me. Every time the quote-unquote racists going to have a march, you know, you got the lefties go out there to have a fight. And I'm like, why do the police allow this? If the right-wingers, or whoever they are, the racists, if you want to call them that, want to have a march, let them have their march. And you have your march on a separate day and never the twains meet. But no, it's always the same thing. And it's always the left looking to have a fight. And they, in this country, they say they're anti-racist or anti-fascist. Only now you get to realise what they're calling fascist to be. Now they don't like you if you're a nationalist. Because nationalist means white, it means bigoted. Well, I'm a nationalist. This is my nation. I'm a son of the soil. And I understand it. Unfortunately, the Marxists don't. They don't even read the Communist Manifesto, let alone anything else. But anyway. So I rebel against all of that. I was going to go into whose idea it was to have this actual flag and the design of it. But I don't think, but I did. I can't find a paper I had the notes written on it, and it's really not important. It's what it's come to signify. And what it's come to signify, to the left, is Klan and racist. This is the new retelling of this flag. I tell you now, it's a new retelling of the flag. Let me just give you a quick flashback. And I'll say this to everybody. Stop, you're talking. If you see my Uncle Tom video, you do well. Oh, by the way, do you like my Floyd Mayweather? Hard work, dedication. Hard work, dedication. Hard work, dedication. Right? This is what this is about. Hard work, dedication, understanding. Because there are some narratives that are being, you know, touched down like a rugby football or American football. You run into the end zone, wiggle your bum. As if you've got the facts. You haven't got the facts. You've not looked into the facts. Okay? And if you're a socialist or coming from the left or the Democrat, they don't teach you the facts. In fact, facts are not what they like. Feelings. So long as your feelings are hurt, they're interested in that. So let me continue. I fly this flag every now and again when I do a broadcast and it's got something to do with America. Because in 1919 there was a film by W.G. Griffith released, blockbuster if you will, silent movie called Birth of a Nation. Birth of a Nation was a rebuking of the ex-slaves. And it was an exaggeration and a projected exaggeration about what blacks will be like should they get power, right? So in the movie you'll see them in Congress eating chicken and throwing the bones and eating watermelon, spitting the pips and feet up on the desk. Or it's really terrible, you know, lusting after white women and, you know, they're in terror. And then you got these guys in white sheets riding to the rescue. Well, that movie, Birth of a Nation, was the greatest ever recruitment sergeant for the Ku Klux Klan. I think overnight 4 million signed up. And there is a Pathé video online. You can look into it. Just tap it in. Sometimes you guys bore me because you will hear somebody say, don't take my word for it, which is reverse psychology. Look at it for yourself. And it seems to me, when you say those words, people don't look into it. They take your word for it. Well, I don't give two hoots. If you come up against me in a debate, I'm going to bury you because you're darn well lazy. Okay? YouTube, Birth of a Nation, Ku Klux Klan. Look at the video. Don't tell me about what you think you know. Okay? So anyway, they got this huge rally in March. Not the only video, but you'll find them if you want to see them. This huge rally. And all you can see is the guys in the white cloaks and Old Glory. The Star Spangled Banner. Not one sign of this. Not one sign of this, okay? Let's just be straight. Not one sign of it, okay? And I can go into the Star Spangled Banner, all right? And tell you what racism is under that flag, okay? Don't play with me. I may be on the other end of the pond, but I think I've got, by this video, you will understand you can't come up with short. Not on this one, you can't come up with short. So anyway, I'm just going to discuss Confederate battle flag and all things surrounding it. Let's start with I haven't got through this book. It's called The Impending Crisis. America Before the Civil War, 1848 to 1861 by David M. Potter. I think before you come speaking to me, although I haven't got through it, you need to take in some information before you run your mouth. Okay? Because you have to understand what was going on in the first place. So, since I'm going to talk about what was going on in the first place, let us talk, or let me just give a brief speech on an essay I have to write about critical race theory. Critical race theory. Okay. This is the brainchild of the late Professor Derek Bell, an African American, who wrote this book, We Are Not Saved, and this book, Faces at the Bottom of the Well. And critical race theory, among one unique thing, it uses fiction to address historical wrongs. So what it is that anybody with half a brain cell knows that the black man, or the man of color, the Negro, never gets justice and fairness. Never gets justice and fairness. Has still, to this day, not received justice and fairness. Turn up for the interview, for the judgment. The chances are you will not get justice and fairness. If you're an academic and you're writing outside the Marxist purview, you will not get justice and fairness, okay? So critical race theory is seeking to address those issues, right? And it speaks of the quote-unquote civil rights gains and how much they didn't really pan out for anything. And when it comes to affirmative action, the people who actually benefited from it were white women. Yeah. You've only got to look at people like Elizabeth Warren, Senator Elizabeth Warren, claiming to be a Cherokee, but she's got such minute Native American blood in her, to the point where there's more white people with Native American blood in them, but they don't seek affirmative action rights based upon the 1% that they may have. They do not consider themselves to be Cherokee, therefore taking benefits for minorities. Rachel Dolezal is another one. And we've got to the point in the Marxist world, feelings, not facts. If you feel you want to be black, then you black. If you feel that you're a female and you're a male, do you know what I mean? And everybody's running around making laws for these people, and it's truly bizarre. So, in this book, he creates a character, Geneva Crenshaw, and she goes back in time to the signers of the Declaration. And prior to signing it, they're having their conferences, and she turns up as a portent, not portent, but you know, a kind of angel, and speaks to these bigwigs, if you will, you know. And she says to him in a particular dialogue, if you knew that you did not respect the black man and all men are created equal, and you knew it would tear the country up in 100 years' time, would you do it? Very interesting text. And the all men created equal It's very important that you understand that. There's a documentary about the early signers, and I'm going to use a piece of the documentary to back my case with regard to critical race theory and its effectiveness. Now, critical race theory, it has an etymology. It's got its own ontology. The ontology comes from Karl Marx. Marx was a Jew that hates Christianity. And three things were happening in the UK. Very unique place, this. If you understand it, a very unique place. And so therefore, with the kind of ongoing battles today, we're hearing about Brexit and Theresa May and all that backstop and the nonsense, you know, the actual seditious and treasonous nature of the Prime Minister. If you understood this country and what made it what it is and makes it kind of special, right, then we'd understand. Now, bearing in mind, no country is perfect. But a sign may point north, but it's not going to have your postcode, but it'll point you in the right direction. Okay? So critical race theory comes from a guy who envied the fact that the Reformation, the Industrial Revolution, and the Enlightenment actually created a new society. A lot of potential, and it's a affirmed Christian society. Well, a Jew doesn't want that, does he? He wants to destroy it. He wants you to forget that. He wants you to have arguments among yourself. It's the rich keeping the poor down and all that nonsense, right? So he's come up with the Communist Manifesto, and if you were to read the preamble, it wants to ban morality. So the kind of immoral world that we're living in today is coming off that text. Anyway, so his economic revolution, by virtue of revolution, he thought would happen, that where the proletariat rise up and whatnot and take over, did not happen. And he's wondering, scratching his head, well, you know, what's up? Well, he doesn't understand people, human beings, Christians, who actually have relationships and they have an understanding of who they are in this world, and they believe in the terra firma that they're from. I mean, nations, people of nations understand that they're people from nations, and they understand the dynamic of my car, my house, my key, I lock door, my privacy, you stay out. They understand that, and they are united in that. He didn't understand that because he was mischievous anyway. He was trying to cause trouble. Let's be straight up about that. So disappointed Jews went away, and they thought, well, what was the problem? So they devised critical theory, cultural Marxism. And out of that, you've got social construction and all that nonsense, that circular reasoning, you know. But at the end of the day, they moan and criticize the society that we're living in. And they say, well, look at this. Is that fair to the poor? And it's the rich harbouring, what's the name? But here, with critical theory, they critique the system, but they realize that you have to infiltrate the system to change the way these people think. Okay? Paulo Freire's got a book, Pedagogy of the Oppressed. He puts it quite clear in that book, where you culturally suppress the entity you want to take over. And you do it through school, education, your media, the lot. Before you know it, people are happy to be in a prison, if you will, you know? You just remove the bars and they're happy to stay there. It's a bit like what they say about some slaves wouldn't leave the plantation. Again, it's a derogatory narrative that people don't really understand. Anyway, this conflagration in the South and the economic system of the South and the northern system, the northerners were opening up the borders, bringing in all types of immigrants, more industrialized and so forth. But before I think it's Sun Tzu, The Art of War, you have to know who you're fighting. And this book, The Cotton Kingdom. The Cotton Kingdom is by Frederick Law Olmsted. This book is a book, a survey, if you will, prior to the war, he's gone down to the south. He's gone to all the plantation, or as many as he can view, big and small. And he's looking at how the South works, and in a way, what is its fitness economically for a war. This is done before. What he's got here is sizing up the enemy, the weak spots, the strong spots, who are the powerhouses, and so forth. How do the poor live, etc. This book is crucial to understanding that the Civil War was going to happen. It was just how Lincoln, or Mr. Springsteen, was going to go about doing it. Now, I'm not just all about America. There's I can't remember the fellow's name. This book, it's from the Caribbean, The Sugar Barons. The Sugar Barons is by Matthew Parker. This is a good book as well. It's worth the read, okay? It talks about, I can't remember the guy's name. It's not just him, but it's a brief heads up to the guy who had plantation tactics. And one of these things was to bring out a disgruntled leader slave, if you will. Thistlethwaite. And he would get the guy to lie down, or have him lie down, and get another slave to actually defecate in the man's mouth. You know, as a way of humiliating. Yes, Thomas Thistlethwaite. Yes. I mean, slavery was, chattel slavery was not good. Okay? And let's not get the Marxists twisting your mind about the Bible condones slavery. Slavery is different from chattel slavery in that what the Bible talks about, what African nations would have spoken about, would have been a bondage system whereby if you committed a crime, I don't know, stole somebody's goats and had that for dinner, and somebody knew that you had done it, you have to pay a price. If there was a tribal war, and prisoners lost, well, a fate worse than death. Is there? I don't know. Slavery, you'll be in bondage to serve your penance. The Bible also says treat your slaves good. They are captives. They are not worse than animals. Once they are tried and found guilty, that's what they're going to do. Serve their time out. Otherwise, it's death, and everybody knows it. So that kind of slavery is not the kind of chattel slavery, dehumanizing system that the Jews actually created. They created a transatlantic slave trade and color-coded slavery. Slavery was, Spartacus wasn't black. Spartacus was a slave, and they trained him as a gladiator. If you fought against the Roman army and you lost, it's either they kill you or you be enslaved. And you can actually win your freedom. This is not a joke, it's true, okay? But what happened in the Caribbean and America is completely different. Absolutely different. And that's one of the reasons why we have this kind of racism, if you will. Magnus Hirschfeld, a Jewish guy, was the first guy credited with using the term racism, okay? Some people said it was Trotsky, but actually it goes further to Magnus Hirschfeld, and he was a sexologist. Allegedly, he was not homosexual, but he promoted homosexual. You see, they're always trying to promote something destructive and discord. Okay, you can go through the books, and there's no point in them saying anti-Semitic. They're not Semites either. Okay, the true term is Hamito-Semitic, but the term was changed by Joseph Greenberg, a linguist, Jewish linguist, who came up with the term of Afro-Asiatic, getting rid of the Hamito-Semitic. And in his work, he says the Afro-Asiatic or Hamito-Semitic languages not only come from East, they come from West Africa as well. Negro, in other words. But now you've got Yiddish speakers claiming by default to be Semitic people, which they are not. Yiddish is not amongst the Semitic languages, so it doesn't matter what you claim, you're not a Semite. Okay? So anyway, I first came into contact. So basically, Olmsted checked out the South, right? And I claim that slavery was a dying institution. Only the big boys had it. It wasn't beneficial for the small subsistence farmer. And it's contrary to what Hollywood says, or makes you believe that every white person who owned slaves was terrible. It's not true. And although there were laws not to teach slaves to read, slaves were taught. They learned trades, etc. And yes, so and I'm not trying to be an escapist or an apologist. Sorry, escapist, an apologist for the big slave owning holdouts. No. When you were signing the Constitution, all men are created equal. You should have stuck with it. That's number one. But once the institution has been up and running, well, it's up and running, okay? And time always gives you the benefit to know that this is unsustainable. But the war was not about enfranchising black people. So when they say, oh, it was over slavery, nah. It was about economics and about states' rights. The right to be independent away from the quote-unquote feds, the union. We don't like this marriage, it's not going well, we don't think it's working well, you go your way, I go mine. That's in the Constitution. The South had a right to secede, as any state has now, right? But you know how some people are, they like big government telling you what to do, when to poo, and all the rest of it. So, critical race theory actually addresses some of that long standing argument of justice and fairness. As you can give yourself justice and fairness, so should another member of the human family. Okay? Critical race theory. And I went to this fella, David Gilburn. He's a professor of education. He did it was a surreal affair. We were told that it was going to be an hour. I think it was on a Friday. I get there, they cut it down to 40 minutes. It was a strange affair, as if the people that actually owned the property and were organising it didn't really want him to speak. It was a real surreal affair. And there were lecturers in the audience, and I don't know if they were trying to pretend to be students, but the students I saw, I didn't even know none of them. I'm like, who are you lot? And, you know, I put my hand up, of course. The black guy would, because he wanted to ask a question. The guy looks me straight in the face and ignores me. And then looks me straight in the face again. It was a surreal affair. But I understand about critical thinking. And critical thinking means there is a narrative given by the powers that be. It's a bit like the story of the hunter. Oh, the lion was coming over me, we wrestled, or the bear, yeah, I had him here, and right. And then I finally came out, you know what I mean, with a few scratches here and scratches there, and that's why I'm holding him up. That's the narrative often given. Critical theory says, well, hang on a minute, let's look at it from another point of view. That might not be the truth. Let's get some details here. And we look at the details and we find out, well, the lion was just sleeping. And you just ambushed him and shot him with a long-range gun. You were nowhere near it, there was nothing to do with it, it wasn't harming anybody, and that's the actual narrative. So it's looking at the system as it was, and looking at its flaws. The problem with Marx and their critique of the system is that there was nothing to compare it to. As I'm speaking about the American Civil War, well, there was the War of Revolution, which was to get rid of the British government, King George III, Germans, rule, and they wanted their independence, 1776. So that's a fairly new country then. 1776, fairly new system. France had their revolution, French Revolution, 1798, around about that period. That's a new system. Italy didn't exist until 1871, and Germany as a country did not exist until 1871. So who is Marx comparing this system to? There is no perfect system. There is no perfect country. So you have to look at it for what it is and not for what they wish it was. So anyway, racism and education, coincidence or conspiracy? Okay? I think it's a useful read. And he uses a fictional narrative, in part,